All right, hey everybody. It is the end of the day here on Thursday when I'm recording this, and it's a big Thursday, so I've got to get this recording in before we wrap up because today is the day when OpenAI has released Operator. This is their response to all the releases around general purpose AI agents, and it's kind of a big deal because this means that now all three of the major frontier AI model foundries have released a general purpose research demo of Agentic AI. So it's a big one. We're going to take a quick look. We'll do a side-by-side comparison of the OpenAI Operator, the Google Mariner project, and the Claude computer use project. Then we're going to talk about just some of the very basic compare and contrast. Really, like, what do we make of this and where are we headed with it? And then lastly, I'll just wrap up with like what you should keep an eye out for over the coming weeks and months on this agentic AI stuff. And this is kind of like a quick first take here, so I'm going to keep it real short. So let's jump into it here, and we will pull up their announcements. So let me just get myself down here in the corner. This is where OpenAI announced Operator, and I'm just going to pull up Google DeepMind's Project Mariner and Anthropic's computer use. And we'll just run them all side by side and we'll talk about what we're seeing here. So the first thing is, what is Operator? So Operator is a general purpose AI agent that's built around a browser interaction within chat. They're using a brand new model that they call Kua, which has been custom trained specifically for this purpose. It looks like it's charting really well on the benchmarks for the model's ability to understand interfaces, which bodes well for its ability to get things done. It looks like they're doing use cases that are dozens of steps, perhaps hundreds of steps, but not fully autonomous thousands of step processes. We're going to just run all these at the same time actually here. Let's get this one going as well.
Today,
awesome. And we'll run these again, like all simultaneously, so you can see what they're doing. I want to point out a couple things. The Operator demo from OpenAI is demonstrating a couple of use cases that I think are quite interesting. But what's notable about those use cases is that they're almost all consumer-focused use cases. If you click into some of their additional reportings about Operator, they have like a separate blog post where they go into a far larger set of use cases, including some really basic business tasks. But most of their marketing collateral appears to be more consumer-oriented. It actually maps decently well to what we're seeing from the other large, from Anthropic and from Google. When Google released Project Mariner, they started off with a business use case, which you're seeing right here in the top right. This is them demonstrating how Mariner, which is built upon Gemini 2.0, is able to sort of generate a bunch of leads for various companies, right? Could identify contact information. That's a very simple business use case. But Project Mariner also has a demo video that's more focused on an individual use case. It's a little convoluted, but it's sort of like, if you wanted to get paint into your Etsy shopping cart based upon an example of an impressionist painter's artwork, then, Mariner will do that for you. But they had sort of one business use case and one consumer use case. And then when you go down to the Anthropic demo of Claude computer use, they were just demoing form completion, right? So filling out vendor forms, which was is a very typical business use case. So there's been a little bit of variation there, but generally, these are simple consumer use cases or very simple business use cases. And that reflects the state of the technology at this time. I think all these companies are expecting that we're going to end up with agentic AI that can be much more autonomous. We rely upon to get a lot of work done, join the sort of digital workforce, if you will. But right now, the reliability isn't there yet, and they're just releasing these as research demos, so they're really much more constrained. The user is expected to watch the agent complete the tasks, to really be the supervision, the human in the loop, and to constrain very strictly like what the agents are able to do for safety reasons, which is really reasonable. But it does create a differentiation between how they message about this now and where this is likely, I believe, to really end up, and where a lot of their executives will talk about at conferences and things about where this is going is really a different set of use cases from what's being shown right now. The other thing I think is worth noting is the benchmark component here, and then I'll probably wrap up this quick take video. They did all release benchmark information about this. So for example, and just to bring some historical context in here, Anthropic released Claude computer use back in October, so it's actually been quite a while since they had this up. But they had released benchmarks for Web Voyager. Project Mariner was released, I want to say, about a month ago, maybe just about a month and a half ago. And Project Mariner had two benchmarks that they were using. One was ScreenSpot, and the other one was also Web Voyager. And then for Operator from OpenAI, they released a slightly larger set of benchmarks, also overlapping on Web Voyager, but they also did Web Arena and OS World. So what you need to know if you're not really deeply steeped in these agentic AI benchmarks is that it looks like they're really proceeding up in reliability of understanding interfaces and being able to interact with interfaces in browsers or in other applications on a desktop interface. Anthropic's Claude computer use is the only one that is outside of the context of a web browser. Both Project Mariner and the OpenAI operator are operating within a sort of sandboxed browser environment. But actually that ends up getting a lot of what the modern sort of knowledge worker needs to get done, is accessible through a browser environment. At the moment, because it looks like the OpenAI operator and the Google Mariner project are pretty close on the Web Voyager stats, but I think actually let me step back and just acknowledge that the benchmarks that they're all using really are pretty rudimentary. They're like, can these agents understand interfaces, interact with them? Can they complete tasks that are few-step tasks? They're not benchmarks that really will tell you whether these agents can reliably complete much more complicated or longer-lived tasks. So I think as we look forward to where are we going with this, now that you have the three sort of premier or sort of front-runner model foundries, all releasing general purpose AI agents, I think we should expect that in 2025 we're going to continue to see very aggressive and concerted work on improving the reliability of these. And I think we're going to see those benchmarks start to shift to much more difficult benchmarks. And the real question is going to be when the reliability starts to become high enough that people are going to start really delegating and assigning work to these things, especially in an unsupervised manner, which is something that for us in the workforce development sector is a really big deal for us to keep an eye on. I also want to acknowledge we have Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI all releasing these, but they are not the only ones who are working on general purpose AI agents. There's a lot of bespoke companies that have been focused exclusively on these use cases for quite some time. They're also hitting high scores in some cases on these benchmarks. So it's going to be a pretty hot sector. And you also have, in addition, you have essentially every tech company that already sells into enterprise is circling around how to get agents to be deployed within their environment. So it's going to be pretty dynamic. It's a pretty exciting day. And I think an important milestone for the agentic era for us to move into this world where all these are now out in the open and ready for folks to interact with. We're going to stay on top of it and keep an eye on what else is developing here. We also have some really good content coming up next week, so keep your eyes open. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the Agentic Era article series. Anyway, have a great weekend, y'all, and catch you soon.